Hello. Welcome to my next episode of Someone You Should Know. I'm super excited about a friend who's going to be on here with me today, Jordan Rubin. Before we get going, I need to add our Instagram followers to go live with us. All right. So, hello, Instagram world, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook. Thank you for taking time out of your day. I know there were a few of y'all waiting on us to get started. So I'm going to go ahead and bring our special guest. Hey, Jordan.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much for taking time to be with us today and dig a little deeper into the subject of health. I'm going to do a quick read of your short bio. There's a long version that you can tell us more about. But before I do that, I just want to encourage every one of you who are considering sticking with us and watching right now to do so, because you're going to find that you've got somebody really special on your team now. And I don't know about you, but I've had enough health challenges through the years to feel like I just wish somebody knew how to fight with me. And Johnny and I have definitely found that in a personal way with Jordan, but also just his expertise. So last week, when if you missed it, you need to go back and watch it. When Jordan and Dr. Josh Axe joined Johnny and Steve Schultz on Elijah Streams, Johnny Unfiltered, they had such an incredible episode, and it was such a I hate to use the word balance because that comes across kind of mamby-pamby, but it was such a balanced perspective on practical, real, biblically based things that we can do to be empowered with how we take care of and steward the bodies that God has given us while we're here on earth, which is huge. It affects everything we can or can't do in life, including our assignment and our purpose. Um, but I want to strongly recommend that you go back and watch that. But as I watched it, I was like, oh, there's so many other things I wish they had time to get into. So I had this idea, and thank you, Jordan, for going along with the idea of doing a little follow up here. I know there's a lot more we want to do in the future with you, Restore 7. So we're going to be having a lot more future conversations, but it just felt important while people were interested from last week's episode of Johnny Unfiltered to hop on here and go a little bit deeper. So we are having a practical, biblical, and solution-oriented conversation about your health today. So stick with us. I've even got show and tell here, guys. I don't know what Jordan's going to say about this, but my favorite drink. Jordan Rubin is the founder of Garden of Life, Beyond Organic and Ancient Nutrition, one of America's most recognized and respected natural health experts. Jordan is the New York Times bestselling author of The Maker's Diet and 30 additional titles, including his latest work that I'm so excited about called The Biblio Diet. And the subtitle is just as good as the title. Live long, master metabolism, reduce pain, fight depression, and conquer cancer with healing secrets from the Bible. You co-authored that, I know, with Josh, and I have had the privilege of reading it before it's currently available, which will be soon. And it's given me a lot of things to want to talk to you about today. So tell us more of kind of, in case someone did miss last week's episode with Johnny, a little bit of your background and why you, just to cut to the chase, why should we listen to you?
Elizabeth, I think when it comes to any challenge in life, and you can break them out into a handful of the biggies, right? So there's a health breakdown, which can obviously cause your life to end. There's
Yeah.
financial distress. There's marital issues. And then I would say extended family, which involves children, right? And we've talked about some of those on the personal level with our own children and children that we care about in our community. So when somebody is looking for answers, whether it's in health, finance, family, kids, you want to find somebody who almost died, but use certain principles to overcome. You want to find somebody who was broke and had no answer in sight, but was able to overcome those financial challenges. You want to find someone whose marriage was on thin ice, almost divorced or filed, and then God, through his principles, caused healing. And same things
Yeah.
when it comes to parenting. You want to talk to somebody who had the struggles, but
Mhm.
then was able to overcome. And so for me, Elizabeth, I had multiple incurable, if not terminal illness diagnoses from inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's and colitis, or Crohn's colitis, which would be a combination of Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, as well as cancer. And I was given a 0% chance to live 90 days with the cancer diagnosis if I didn't seek conventional medical treatment. But besides that, being the father now of 6 children, 5 adopted. So we've not only been able to bring a child into the world, Nikki and I, but we've adopted. So we've been able to foster an environment of health and wellness. And then beyond that, the healings that God brought me, I parlayed into content, information, books, including the Biblio Diet, as you referenced. I also decided to get into regenerative farming before it was really called that in 2009. So we have multiple farms. We also formulate and manufacture nutritional products. And I have led health and nutrition companies for the last 28 years. And however, the question you asked me, why should someone listen to me? I get that question along with, why did you get sick? And I'm going to give the answer to both because it's the same. Why did I get sick? And why should you listen to me? Um, I got sick, and people want me to say, well, I got this vaccination, or I ate this poor diet, or I was under a lot of stress, or I had exposure to toxicity. And that all could have been true in certain instances. But the reason I believe I quote unquote got sick was that so others could get well, or so others could avoid getting sick altogether. And the reason you should listen to me, I would say, is very biblical. So in Revelation, it says, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word or power of this testimony.
Yeah.
And to me, when I was sick with Crohn's disease and losing weight and constantly in the bathroom and in the hospital, I would go to all these doctors and they would have these credentials before and after their name. They would have diplomas on the wall,
Yeah.
certifications. But I wanted to talk to someone, Elizabeth, who had been where I was and overcame. And that's why you want to meet with somebody who's an overcomer if you want to overcome. And so I would say the greatest reason that I have any platform is the same reason the blind man in scripture, when he was questioned by the rulers of the day, tell me about this Jesus who healed you. Is he a sinner or not? And the blind man said, whether he was a sinner or not, I do not know. But what I do know is once I was blind and now I see. So I would
Mm.
say, Elizabeth, similarly,
Yeah.
my testimony has given me an ability to speak into the lives of people who are similarly suffering. And now, as we've matured, I'm often dealing with people who ask about their health, their aging parents' health, their children's health, their grandchildren's health. And again, I think I've been battle tested.
Yeah.
I would love to tell you I've faced my last battle. And
Yeah.
Elizabeth, I've often asked God, hey, can I learn from someone else's mistakes or
Of
from
course. Yeah.
books? From books?
Yeah.
Because every time I have a health crisis, it seems like God takes it and uses it to help other people. And I'm game for that. But just like Jesus said, sometimes I want to say, Lord, take this cup from me,
For
not my
sure.
will, but yours be done. Because going literally through the valley of the shadow of death repeatedly has proven to be a challenge. But you build faith muscles. So anyway, all
Yeah.
that to say, I love to share the goodness of God and what he's done in and through my life. I have
Yeah.
been a student of nutrition and health
Yes.
and wellness and regenerative farming when it was a life or death situation, which means I was very careful in studying and desperate for answers. I know what doesn't work. I know what does work.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this for a long time. So uh, those are those are some little background of what I'm doing. But the good news is there's not a single food or beverage you can show me, Elizabeth, or
Yeah.
supplement or gadget or gizmo that I wouldn't have some opinion on. And that's so important because we're inundated with
Yeah.
health information. And I would
True.
say, Elizabeth, the reason we wrote the Biblio Diet is to create the definitive word on biblical health. And I have to share something with you today, Elizabeth, that I've never shared with anybody because the Lord just spoke to me about it 2 days ago,
Mm,
if not yesterday. I got to remember when. And I go through the Bible sequentially on an app. I listen to it and
mm,
I'm going through it very frequently, which is awesome. And I got a verse that is a great um, I think, confirmation to the dietary information that we share. And it's
mm,
so new from the Bible. It's new. It didn't even make it in the book. And it's from Job chapter 29.
mm,
And this is so cool. I don't know if you've pondered this, Elizabeth, but the longest conversation between a person and God ever was in Job. So in the Job late 20s and 30s, Job talks to God. God says, more or less, bow up, Job, and if you dare, share with me what you know and what I should do. And then he does. And then God shares with him, did you make the sun? Did you set the stars in the sky? Did you put Pleiades out there? And did you create the wind? And did you know? I mean, it's so amazing. I'm getting chills. But in Job 29, when Job's talking, he says to God, Elizabeth, when I had your favor upon me, I would walk and the streets were paved with cream and olive oil was poured out for me. And it's so cool because I'm a huge proponent of eating healthy fats. And the world says saturated fat is bad, which
right.
cream has some saturated fat. And some people say fat in general is bad and there's lots of calories. But Job compared the best part of his life when God's favor was upon him. He had cream paving the streets and olive oil poured out on him. You know what that tells me, Elizabeth?
Wow.
I want to eat cream today and olive oil. And because God knows something that we don't
Yeah.
and that science doesn't. And so I just love the word of God. I really would think that as many times as I've gone through the Bible, I would know every scripture about health and nutrition. But the Biblio Diet is a treasure trove of new revelation that's also thousands of years proven. So that's what I love about it. But I'm just so excited the fact that I have literally consumed cream from healthy dairy for the last 30 years. And I believe it was a huge part of my life
Yeah.
and my healing. And every night when our family's together, we all toast and quote Acts 1:8, which is we receive power when the Holy Spirit is upon us. And we live in two places, Birmingham and Nashville. So if we're in Birmingham, we'll say, and we will be your witnesses in Birmingham, Alabama, Nashville, Tennessee, and to all the ends of the earth. And then we drink between a tablespoon and an ounce of olive oil together in a little cup because it represents the Holy Spirit, etc. So either way, that's a brand new thing, Elizabeth, that nobody's heard, and it didn't even make the book. It's so new, but believe me, I'll be talking about it because I was so excited that I was stopped on that scripture just in the last couple days.
I love that, and I love that, so I wanna jump into something really practical related to that in just a second, but first, just to comment on kind of your background. I love that you have a love for learning, and that is so obvious by all that you have researched over the years, and I have a feeling that even if you hadn't been sick, you would be someone who, um, really digs deep in studies and asks lots and lots of questions, and because of that, we get to reap the benefits, and you happen to have become really close friends with Dr. Josh, who is wired similarly, and, I know that's its own story, but I appreciate how both of you have written a book and created a foundation for a lifestyle that we can look at and grow towards that does not ignore the spiritual aspect of that and your mentality and leaning on the Lord and discernment and following the Holy Spirit while also being informed. But you allow the Holy Spirit to lead you on these learning adventures, which is why you've landed in so much revelation, including your most recent revelation that you just shared about Job. That's fascinating. So, related to like even fats and cream and that kind of thing, I had my first real olive oil. And I say real because I had no idea until just a few months ago that if it's an olive oil that really has is nutrient dense the way it's meant to be, it burns your throat a little bit. How do your kids handle that?
They are used to it because
Yeah.
my wife and I, Nikki, went on a trip to Greece in October, and we went to an olive grove, and I was excited. It was the best part of the trip, if you ask me. And these were
Wow.
multi-hundred-year-old olive trees and a generational family, and they just talked about how olive oil is medicine in Greece. And so I just said, you know what, I'm going to start doing this. And so my kids are used to it now, but yeah, it gets you. And
That's the
I think
polyphenols?
it's the polyphenols, and we're hearing, Elizabeth, a lot about polyphenols today. They are really one of the most important compounds for aging gracefully, longevity, cellular health, mitochondria, all these words that are being discussed today. And olive is a great source. It has, if you're interested, olive oil has various polyphenols. One is called hydroxytyrosol, which is actually in olive oil, but it can also be in olives and even olive brine or olive water, because it can
Oh.
also be water soluble as well. There's something also called oleuropein or oleuropein, and that is something that can fight fungal infections, viral
Mm.
infections. That's popular and found in olive leaves. But yes, just yesterday, because I'm about to run out of my Greek olive oil, I was searching for the next candidate to burn our throats at dinner. But you make a good point, not just with olive oil, Elizabeth, but we have changed and altered foods to cater to the tastes of our modern environment. And that goes for fruits, that goes for vegetables. We want things that are seedless, we want things that are sweeter. And in the case of olive oil, we want it to be buttery smooth instead of peppery, which is the way I would
Mm.
describe it. And
Yeah.
now you have learned, which I did as well, that the bitter note or the peppery note in olive oil tells you if it's high quality,
Mm.
true extra virgin or not.
Yeah, I was so shocked. I was like, "How did I live this long and love olive oil and just discover this?" But it made me upgrade my olive oil for sure. One of the things that has been frustrating for me throughout the years is the discipline that it takes to stay off of the things that taste good to me, like sugar. And I felt like, a couple of years ago, the Lord kind of gave me a new strategy, and then I started finding information that supported that. So I want to hear what you think about this. But He said, if you'll focus on what you need, then you won't want the things you don't need. And so I started focusing on protein and healthy fats. And so I don't crave what I used to crave if I'm if I have just enough discipline to enjoy as much of those 2 things every day that I can, then there's usually not a craving for things that aren't good for me. And now I've come to love the variety of proteins and healthy fats that I have. So I don't know if you wanna speak into that a little bit?
Yes, I would give you a 10 out of 10, Elizabeth. So,
All right, good.
as you read in the Biblio Diet, I make two comments related to eating that I would call hacks or tricks that will be helpful. One is the amount of time you eat in a day. So people would call that intermittent fasting, or they would call it um, time restricted eating.
Mhm.
Back in the day, it was just called living because people
Right.
didn't eat all night. They didn't have artificial lights. They didn't have the luxury of eating a big breakfast because they had to go out and fight, or they had to go out and farm, or they had to go out and prepare work. But so number one was, don't eat for 16 hours a day, eat for 8 or maybe
Yeah.
6 or 4. And if you're dealing with a health challenge, maybe even less. Number
Mhm.
two, the order by which you eat your meal. And I have said this for decades. Protein comes from the Latin word proteus, which means that which comes first or of primary importance. So I say if you eat your highest protein food first,
Mhm.
then oftentimes what is highest in fat, which usually is the protein, by the way, then you focus on fibrous, kind of non starchy veggies. After that, have some grains, have some potatoes, sweet potato, what you'd call something starchy, maybe
Yeah.
fruit, but you're a lot less likely to chow down. And Elizabeth, here's a great example. All of us, including me, even though I eat extremely well and even the junk food I eat is health food junk food, I don't have an off button for ice cream. Now, I usually make my own ice cream, and apparently, Job loved the cream just lining the streets that he walked. I don't
Right.
have that just yet, but I have delicious cream from raw water buffalo and all sheep milk and A2 and all this cool stuff. So I don't have an off button for ice cream unless I hit the bottom of the container. I don't have an off button for cookies or chips. But I challenge anyone watching to pig out on salmon and broccoli. I mean, Elizabeth, have you ever met anyone say, man, I am just the stuffed. I'm such a pig. I eat so much salmon and broccoli.
Right.
It's because the protein, the fat, and the fiber tells your body through hormone production, even your brain, that you're no longer hungry and you got what you came for.
Yeah.
Now, restaurants know this, Elizabeth, because they serve bread, often unbleached white flour, before your meal. And it's almost going to guarantee that you're going to drink alcohol or have dessert because it just sent your blood sugar on a roller coaster ride. So, what
Wow.
you said is absolutely true. Prioritize protein. That's how we talk about it in the book. Eat your healthy fats, eat your vegetables, and listen, if it makes you feel better, if you want to enjoy a dessert, we teach you in the Biblio Diet, and I have in all of my materials, even how to cheat. And I'm going to say that right now, Elizabeth, because I bet people are thinking, I don't want to eat protein. Maybe I don't like meat, or I don't have a taste for fat. Or you don't understand my schedule, Jordan. I'm always at the office with the donuts, or I'm at a party at the end of the day, or holidays, or friends. I also say this in the Biblio Diet, which is really important. If you're going to cheat, cheat on purpose.
Yeah.
So here's an example. You're going to your in-laws and they don't eat the same way you do. And they also have this great dessert that your mother-in-law makes that you, and I'm speaking from example. It's these chocolate covered organic buckeyes, she calls them, and they're like peanut butter in the middle with organic chocolate and organic sugar. It's all organic, but it's still sugar.
Right.
And they're so good. My kids love them.
Yeah.
So I literally tell people, and I'm going to share with the audience now, if you're going to be in a compromising dietary situation, it's not too bad. It's not going to completely set you off, but it's not what you normally eat. Set your clock for 1 hour and eat as much as you want in that 1 hour, but don't eat before, don't eat after. Grazing at a party is the worst thing you can do, and it'll probably send you into a food coma, wake up with a food hangover,
Yeah.
and get right into the sugary sweets the next morning. Eat anything you want within 1 hour and within reason. That's the best way to quote unquote cheat. And we even tell people, Elizabeth, build that into your diet once or twice a week. When Nikki and I first got married, our cheat meal was, and it's funny, these are all female names of brands, like Julie's organic ice cream, Amy's pizza, and then I think there was Jenny's French fries or something, all from the health food store. And look, no one's going to say that pizza, French fries, and ice cream are a health food, but we ate it in one meal. It was the most organic, natural versions we could, and we looked forward to it. It was fun. And then we realized, hey, I don't feel that great. So let's get right back to our diet where we prioritize protein, eat healthy fats, something with fiber, etc. So I think, Elizabeth, what you are doing with the ordering of your meal and the prioritization of your diet is critical. And people also need to be educated on what are the best protein foods. I don't want to assume everybody knows, but
Yeah.
I would say that red meat is healthy. And if you don't know that, the Biblio Diet will convince you. Um, Red meat, poultry, fish, people should know. I don't eat pork or shellfish. I don't believe they're suitable for human consumption. I could get into those discussions scientifically, but I also believe that God made that determination and it still stands for the physical health of our bodies. So I eat red meat, poultry, fish with fins and scales. Eggs are amazing, especially the highest quality. Dairy can be wonderful. Nuts, seeds, legumes, herbs, and spices. In fact, Elizabeth, today, Dr. Josh Axe posted a new podcast on the Biblio Diet on his program. It was excellent. He actually did a side by side of the Paleo Diet and the Biblio Diet, and he explained how the Bible's diet is so much different and really superior to a diet that's been popular for about 20 years among those who have health challenges and are in the know. But prioritizing protein in a meal, absolutely amazing. You could literally have the same meal, but eat the foods in a different order, and
Yeah.
you'll be better off. Instead of having leftover meat and veggies, you'll have leftover rice and sweets. And that's going to add up over time on the positive side of your ledger.
It's so true. One of the things that helped me, and I don't want to go too deep into this because I don't want to overwhelm anybody, but one of the things that really helped me, because I had chronic Lyme disease and a lot of health issues myself that just made me feel miserable a lot of my life. And when I started learning some of these things years ago, I feel amazing. I have energy. I feel young, and I'll have things, crop up that I feel empowered to know how to deal with them. But one of the things that I learned, and that kind of even helped Johnny and I get on the same page that we learned together, is about, you mentioned the mitochondria of a cell. So we know that our bodies are energy, and you get into some of this in the books. Our body is made of energy, and so every single cell mimics the whole body, and that every single cell has an assignment. It can't fulfill that assignment unless that mitochondria that burns fuel in the center of it, that's our energy source, I can't complete that assignment. So we're all kind of predisposed genetically and environmentally, et cetera, to have weaknesses in certain ways. So maybe if my body had a challenge, it might show up more in my joints or more in my gut, et cetera. And especially us women, our bodies can accomplish more, so more can go wrong. Um, I believe our bodies can accomplish more, making a human and all. But I think that that cell, and the when I think of the individual cells in my body having the advantage of each one being healthy enough to do what they were each created to do, that might feel like too detailed for someone. For me, for the way my brain works, that helped me because it made me feel like it's important, everything that I expose my body to, because my cells need to do what they're created to do. And your cells will burn sugar fast, and it takes longer to burn and then also digest fats and proteins. That's right, right? So when you talk about the order of what you eat, in order for Johnny and I to kind of get on the same page and to see in real time this working, we decided to do a continuous glucose monitor. So rather than, we're not diabetic or anything like that, but rather than like poke our fingers, we purchased one of those things you put on your arm for a couple of weeks, and you watch it on an app. And I'm not telling other people they need to do this, but I'm just telling you from our experience, we experimented with the food we ate and with the order that we ate it in, and we could see in real time our glucose would spike if we ate the opposite of what you said. If we started with our carbs, some bread, some salad, some typical things in the beginning, and then finished with the protein like we usually do, and our glucose would spike. Well, what that means on a cellular level is that your cells are directly connected to inflammation related to the things you do with your body, the things you expose yourself to. And so that cellular inflammation is around the cell. And if a cell is inflamed, just like anything, it can't do its job. It can't let in the nutrients that you are getting, and it can't let out the burn off from the fuel of that mitochondria doing its job. And so a cell becomes damaged, that becomes diseased, and it shows up in whatever you're predisposed to, whether it's your joints or your gut, etc. So there are very specific things that we can do to help those cells be super healthy and be able to do what they're supposed to do. See in your eyes, digest food in your stomach, take care of your joints, grow muscle, whatever it is. And so this can feel like a heavy burden, but if you start understanding just a few simple things about how your body works and realize like that alone got me off sugar, because I was like, every time I'm eating sugar and a real quick carb like that, I'm damaging my cells, and my cells can't do what they're supposed to do. And over time you start seeing the benefits of coming off of that. So one of the other things I wanted to ask you about that I think I understand, and correct anything I said if any of that was wrong or incomplete. But I want to segue into also another thing that my understanding is that the oils that we eat that are bad for us are specifically very toxic and damaging on a cellular level to us. And so I don't know if you want to get into that as well.
Yeah, I have said this for almost 30 years, and I called it the deadly dozen. So I had a list, and this was back in the Maker's Diet
Mhm.
in 2003, and it launched in 2004. And I tell people you need to at least avoid or limit the first three, four, or five of those. And number one would be pork and shellfish. One of the reasons is that there are unhealthy fats and a boatload of toxins in these animals that Leviticus 11, Deuteronomy 14 admonish us not to eat. And by the way, this is not something that I want to get into a theological debate, because there
Sure.
will be comments about that. However, God created our bodies, and He created the bodies of a pig, a skunk, a rat, a dog, a cat, and then a shrimp, lobster, clam, crab, and mussel. They have a role on this earth, but there's a specific amount of them that needed to be there because Noah was told to take certain of the clean animals and less of the unclean or detestable. But beyond that, avoiding these things can help decrease your toxic load and increase your nutrition. Number two, I would talk about artificial or diet sweeteners. And back in the day, I would say whether they're in pink, yellow, or blue packets. And
Right.
it's interesting, Elizabeth, some of us have memories of our family, and I remember great aunts and my grandmother on one side of the family always putting sweet and low on her strawberries. Like they would have fruit
Right.
and you'd eat it and it would have this weird aftertaste. It was ubiquitous. Back then it was the pink packet, and then it was the blue, and now it's the yellow. But artificial sweeteners disrupt the body's function, and you think you're saving by consuming less sugars, you're actually causing all kinds of confusion. And I could go into details. Number three, and that's why I bring this up, I would say hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated damaged oils. And now they're called seed oils primarily, or plant oils or vegetable oils. The book that I remember from 20 plus years ago, a couple of them actually were really profound. One was Fats That Heal and Fats That Kill. And the other one was, I want to say, Good Fats, Bad Fats, kind of the same premise. Fats from whole foods that are unprocessed.
Yeah.
Let me back up. That are minimally processed, because even extra virgin olive oil is processed. Now, you only
Sure.
put olives in a oil mill and you sort of let the weight of the olive push on the bottom olives, but that's still some level of processing. But fats from real foods, the way that human beings could consume them on their own without some crazy 10-step process, are really, really good. Those tend to be, believe it or not, saturated fatty acids, monounsaturated fatty acids, certain omega-3 fatty acids, certain short chain fatty acids, but mostly avoiding what is called omega-6 fatty acids, which you would find in safflower, sunflower, soy, cottonseed, canola, and it depends. There's a few others that are used regularly, but if you're wanting to know what can I avoid that is commonly found in our food supply that could be increasing my risk for cancer, heart disease, neurodegeneration like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, avoid those oils. Again, sunflower, safflower, canola, cottonseed, and soy.
Yeah.
Those are the primary ones we're going to see in foods. There are a few others. Opt for olive oil, avocado oil,
Mhm.
coconut oil. There's some oils that are better from seeds like almond oil or mac nut oil, like macadamia nut oil. And then fats that you'd find in egg yolks, butter, meat, poultry, fish. These are good. And what was so damaging in the 90s, Elizabeth, is there was a war against fat when those Snackwell, remember those Snackwell cookies and
Yeah.
crackers and
Yeah.
fat-free yogurt and fat-free this. If you have yogurt that is light and fat-free, meaning sugar and fat-free, that's no-gurt, not yogurt.
Yeah.
So fat is either going to heal your cells or going to destroy your cells.
Yeah.
And it is a very important macronutrient to pay attention to. And to your point earlier, fat is a better fuel source and more efficient. 1 gram of fat has approximately 9 calories of energy it supplies. 1 gram of carbohydrate and protein are 4 grams plus or minus each. So fat is a better fuel to burn. And if you're going to go on a marathon run, a big, if you're going to preach 4 services, if you're going to work for hours without any food, don't carb load where
Yeah.
people would have this big bowl of spaghetti before they go do something, because that'll burn quick.
Yep.
The fat will burn slowly over time.
Mhm.
You could do a great combo, like make a little sort of protein ball with some coconut, which
Mhm.
is a good source of fat, a little honey, which is God's favorite sweetener, and maybe some nuts and seeds. But prioritize your fat when you're going to exert lots of energy. It is the best way to do it. Your brain and your body run better on fat than they do on carbs, which turn into sugar. And I'm sure your
So true.
CGM showed you that,
It
Elizabeth.
did, and also, I think you can lose weight more easily when you focus on getting enough protein and enough fat, because tell me if this is correct, it takes longer to digest, meaning your body can, through that longer digestive process, burn a slow, steady burn rather than just a quick and then it's gone. And as your body's burning something, it's actually using those calories. But if you just eat a bunch of carbs, a bunch of sugar, carbs that turn into sugar, your body can't utilize, if you're not running a marathon, it can't utilize all that fast enough. So it shoves it into fat cells. So you're going to gain weight. People are scared of gaining weight by eating more fat, and it satiates you. You don't I just I've seen it in real time with my own stuff. I was going to show them. You brought up these are I'm so busy and I don't have a farm like you. And I'm starting slow. I'm wanting to grow into the pace where I can make more of my own, and I'm doing more cooking than I ever have, minus the casseroles I made for my children when they were little. Um, but so
Hamburger helps your hamburger helper make a great meal. Look at all
yeah,
those. We have all those jingles back in the day, right,
I
Elizabeth? They
did
don't they
all
don't have good
those.
jingles anymore. Tuna helper
I've
and yeah.
so apologized to my children the food that I raised them on, and now they're eating great because they've learned themselves. But I have found it's worth spending a little more if I need to find things that I can take with me and eat on the run, spend a little bit more. I'm pretty sure I was like one of your top users of ancient nutrition for a few years there. Um, and but I've found a few products that I want to ask you about. And you may not even know them because I know Nikki does a lot of cooking for y'all too. But this is a company called Prima, and they're protein bars, and it's animal based. So it has a lot of grass fed protein, no seed oils, and no refined sugar.
Now, on the surface, that sounds great, Elizabeth. I think what would be awesome is maybe just sort of read me the ingredients, but I delved
Okay.
into the bar category pretty heavily because my
Yeah.
daughter, who's a junior in high school, just went on a 2 week hiking trip to Iceland, hiking and camping. And we were concerned that the food wouldn't be what she's used to because she has had an impeccable diet her whole
Yeah.
life. And so we delved into animal based bars and plant based bars that she stuffed her backpack with to make sure she got a base level of nutrition. So we could rapid fire this. Tell me what's now,
Okay.
because what's on the front of a label can be deceiving. I have taught label reading for so long because even my mom, who has been in natural health for 55 years,
Yeah.
said, see, it says whole grain on the front, or it says low sugar, or but the back is what's most important. So tell
This
me
is
what's in
great.
the bar.
That's a
And
great lesson. Okay.
yes,
Grass-fed bovine collagen peptides,
okay, we like collagen.
grass-fed whey protein concentrate,
Whey protein's good.
grass-fed beef tallow,
Very good.
organic coconut nectar.
Now, coconut nectar, just so you all know, it's coconut sugar and it's made like maple syrup from a coconut palm. And here's a fun fact: if you tap the coconut palm for the nectar or maple or the resin, um, it will not grow coconuts. So you're kind of, it's the lifeblood
Hmm.
of a coconut tree. It is better, Elizabeth, than sugar, plain cane sugar, because it hasn't been overly processed, but it still is a source of sugar. So far, what you've
Mhm.
told me, that's an excellent whole, I would call that a whole food nutrition bar.
Yeah.
Um, but you can keep reading if there's any more ingredients, but you do want to make sure you check out the added sugars because
Yes.
that is important to see.
This does spike me when I had the glucose
Okay.
monitor on, so I would always eat it after I ate this.
Which is a beef stick
A beef
and
stick,
or
just
a
nothing else
turkey
in it.
stick or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are becoming super popular again because people are now counting protein grams per pound of body weight. It's what
Yeah.
bodybuilders used to do, and now what normal people are doing. Even 80-year-olds who are proven to be able to build muscle, unlike what people thought in the past. But I do think, Elizabeth, a meat stick or a meat bar
Yeah.
is a good choice first. So you're almost looking at it. It's kind of funny, but your meat bar is your meal and your sweet bar is your dessert. Even though there's a lot of protein in the sweet bar, you're going to get the protein and the fat first, and then you're going to get the sweet bar, and it kind of tastes like a dessert to you. But I'm guessing it has 12 to 20 grams of carbohydrates, a decent amount of sugars, but also probably double digits in protein. But even that, which is a balanced level,
Yeah.
you're saying caused your blood sugar to rise, which will
Exactly.
cause insulin to rise, which will cause some level of dysregulation in your hormones. So that's a great lesson. Eat your meat bar first, eat your sweet bar after. That is a meal on the run for the modern world.
Exactly. Yeah, so or I'll just finish it off here. Organic raw honey, organic agave inulin, which is a prebiotic fiber, organic cacao nibs, organic coconut, organic vanilla extract, and sea salt. Um,
Okay, Elizabeth, I'm going to tell you one thing that I don't love, and that's
yeah.
agave. Agave
Yeah.
is not horrible. You probably have heard of tequila. It comes from the same plant, and agave is from a cactus. I feel like agave can be highly processed and it can also cause some gut disturbances. And so, before you mentioned agave, Elizabeth,
Yeah.
I was a little surprised that this impacted your blood sugar, but I have heard of people that don't do well on agave. It's spelled Agave. I
Yeah.
like honey better. I like coconut sugar or coconut nectar better. I like maple syrup better. I like date sugar better, which is rare, but it's another biblical sweetener. And I like fruit better. But
Yeah.
agave is not terrible, but it does cause some gas and bloating in some people, and it can cause blood sugar imbalances. That's interesting that they added that because the other ingredients were really, really good prior to that. That's more marginal.
Okay, so the other one I was just gonna show you real quick, and then I've got another question. Let's see how we're doing with our time. Um, let's see. Yeah, we're good. Um, this is a product by Body Health called Perfect Amino, and it's a mocha chip bar. It has, well, it's a long list, which I know I love in the Biblio Diet how you guys get enough into making a list of the kind of chemicals that you need to look for, but to simplify it, you say that it should have 5 ingredients or less is ideal. And,
Yeah. We like the ingredient list, like apple contains apple.
yeah,
That's kind of a good one.
exactly,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah. So read me a couple in there that you're
Okay,
questioning because you know what?
yeah.
It's good. We don't do a lot of communication about bars and convenience because some people just assume a bar is healthy if you get it in a grocery or health food store. So give me
So
something that you think is somewhat controversial.
this has a lot of organic fruits and vegetables in it, and it has some supplements that are like L-valine, some good things
Yep.
like
Those are
that, but
amino acids. Yep.
the primary, ingredients besides that are pea protein isolate, organic coconut glycerin, and chicory root fiber.
Okay. So I would consider pea protein average, slightly above average if it's organic, but pea protein is definitely a less efficient protein than animal and can cause some people to have
Yeah.
gut disturbances because it's a legume. Um,
Mm.
Secondly, you mentioned chicory. And I think you need to go to the Olipop right after this because we'll get right into it. But chicory is similar to agave in that it has a type of fiber known as inulin, and I'm
Mhm.
getting technical here, which contains a fermentable sugar or borderline fiber called FOS, fructooligosaccharides. Now, many people, especially those that I have worked with that have very sensitive digestive tracts, whether it be inflammatory bowel disease, IBS, diarrhea, constipation, celiac disease, or major gluten intolerance, which is diverticulitis, diverticulosis, all those, I tend to minimize or avoid chicory, inulin, FOS, agave for that purpose.
Okay.
Also, glycerin is okay. It's a way to get sweetness in without it. It's like a cross between a fat and a carb. It's kind of weird that way.
Yeah.
It got a glycerol backbone, but oftentimes glycerin isn't great on the gut. So, what I would say, Elizabeth, this is my guess, that bar you just mentioned
Yeah.
is probably less friendly on the tummy than the previous bar that you showed. And it has a lot more ingredients. Many are made in a laboratory, not
Mhm.
uh, made by God in nature. So, I would vote for the first bar. But for most people, you're better off supplementing with the meat bar because people tend to find plenty of carbohydrates on their own. No one's ever said to me, Jordan, I am having a hard time getting sugar in my diet or getting carbs in my diet. It's usually quite the opposite.
So you said to show the Olipop.
Yes.
If
So
somebody's addicted
Olipop,
to soda and they
yes.
need to slowly wean themselves off, is this a good solution?
Okay, before I answer that, Olipop is very popular along with Poppy, and then
Mhm.
there's a few others that are known as prebiotic sodas. But let me say this, Elizabeth. If someone loves soda, there are really three categories that you could consume, and I'll put Olipop in the prebiotic soda category. So I would say one would be I like a kombucha or water kefir or kefir water. So a probiotic soda category.
Mhm.
Those usually have probiotics, actual beneficial bacteria. They're usually a little lower in carbohydrates, and they also have some B vitamins and some polyphenols.
Mhm.
Then there's the prebiotic sodas, and then the other would be the non-caloric sweetened sodas like stevia sweetened, which would be Zevia or Zevia, and there's other brands. So, Elizabeth, my kids like Olipop, and I allow them to have it. I'm not a tyrant, but I allow them to have that occasionally. Here's what I would say: it there is a decent amount of carbohydrates in Olipop or Poppy. They're prebiotic in the same way that agave is, the same way
Mhm.
that inulin or FOS is. So here's how I would say it: from gut friendliness, kombucha and water kefir is going to be a little more gut friendly, although some people with damaged guts don't do well with carbonation and they
Right,
don't do well with any sugar. So
right.
I would say kombucha, a real kombucha, would be my preference. If you switch from a soda, Coke or Sprite,
Yeah.
kombucha is going to be better for you because of what it has beneficial, and then a lack of detrimental things. I would consider Olipop and Poppy, the prebiotic sodas. I don't think they're giving you anything you need, Elizabeth. What they're giving you is something you can easily get from a plantain or a potato or white rice that's pressure cooked. Nothing special, but better than a soda. And I'm sure you see that on your
Yeah.
CGM, especially better than corn syrup, etc.
Yeah.
I don't love the non-caloric sweetened sodas as much because people tend to drink more of them because there's no calories or sweeteners, and then your body has this sugar craving rebound effect because
Mm.
you're getting all this sweet but no
Mhm.
nutrients. But
Ah,
I would say kombucha or water kefir are going to be your better choice for a soda alternative. Well, let's be realistic. No one's going to go from drinking Sprite to drinking a lemon lime kombucha. There is an acquired taste to it.
yeah.
But the power of sour helps you crave less sweet. So that is why a kombucha can be better for your overall diet, because I guarantee you, having a kombucha, a couple hours later, you're not going to crave sweets the same way as you may with an Olipop. But that being said, Olipop does not have preservatives. It doesn't have colors. It doesn't have artificial sweeteners or flavors. They're super popular, but I would caution how many you consume in a day. And that's an important thing,
Yeah.
Elizabeth, because so many people, I have people write down a diet journal if they ask me for help with their health, because I want to know
Sure.
what they're eating. You know that because I asked you and Johnny to do kind of same thing. And people forget sweeteners, they forget gum or candy. Those are all counting towards what you're eating. There are people I know that chew on like 10 sticks of gum, or they have mints in their mouth all the time. And some are total junk, some have
Yeah.
xylitol, etc. But everything you put in your mouth, including what we spoke about off the air, water, counts towards your overall health. So you need to be careful. People say this all the time: don't drink a lot of your calories. I think
Mhm.
that's partially true. Obviously, there's some great smoothies and shakes you can consume. But when it comes to soda alternatives, kombucha first or water kefir, the prebiotic sodas second, and the non-caloric stevia sweetened beverages I'd consider third.
All right, that is very helpful. Can you talk about, water? I mean, that was one of my first changes that I made dietary wise that I felt like was important, but maybe I'm wrong. How important is it what kind of water you drink? And if you're out and about, what's the best water to grab out there? We're aware of microplastics and all that, you know?
Yes. So in a perfect world, Elizabeth, you're driving along the coast of Kauai, and out of a volcanically formed rock, you see a perfectly clear stream of water just sort of flowing out with your stainless steel bucket, and you go harvest, or a glass bottle, and you drink it every day. I'm not joking. That is a great kind of water to drink. What I would say the bare minimum is make sure you have a water that is purified from chemicals. We could go a whole show on this,
Sure.
Elizabeth. Water doesn't just have all kinds of stuff dissolved in it. So if you are using city water or municipal water, you've got chlorine or chloramine, which are toxic gases. You've got probably fluoride, which is a toxic sewage sludge byproduct hidden and disguised as a mineral. And then you've got traces of drugs, plastics, and every chemical known to man. It's so bad. And if you believe in the energy of water, which there's some interesting data
Yeah.
based on books that were written in the 90s and the 2000s called The Hidden Messages in Water, et cetera, about water structure. Water that used to be full of chemicals and junk, but was then purified, would still have the energetic imprint of all of that crud. And I know that could scare people, but here's what I say: get the filter that filters out the highest amount of toxins and byproducts as a base level. If you live in an area where there's hard water, which means high levels of minerals, you're going to reduce that through purification or water softening.
Mhm.
Minerals in water, I don't believe are excellent. Some people believe are great. Some people that are my colleagues think that minerals you get in sparkling water. There's a brand called Gerolsteiner that's very popular. They think that's amazing. Mountain Valley spring waters, higher in minerals. I tend to think for water, the perfect water would be a spring water with low minerals. And if you're going to purify your water with reverse osmosis or ultrafiltration, you're going to lower the minerals. Do I not like minerals? I love minerals. I think you should get minerals from your food, and you're better off getting H2O from your water. And the minerals that come from your water are not very absorbable anyway. So
Mm,
you're better off having a mineral rich diet from meats, poultry, eggs, dairy, fruits, vegetables, some grains, nuts, seeds, legumes, etc. But the bare minimum is purifying your water. And Elizabeth, we talked about this off the air. The water in your shower that is heated, that has the chlorine or chloramine gas come off from it, is a perfect chance to inhale that toxin. So if you can get a shower filter that is carbon block that you could screw on and
yeah.
it blocks chloramine, chlorine, etc. Or if you can afford it, a whole house water filtration system. Just look online. Every area has a local vendor for a whole house or whole home water purification system. It's going to be a few $1,000s, but it's worth it. Think about all the dishes that you wash with hot water, all that chlorine you're breathing in.
Yeah.
You're feeding it to your pets. Do you know, Elizabeth, if you had water that had chlorine and fluoride next to water that was purified, I bet your dog or cat would drink the water that was purified. So if they know it, we know it.
Yeah, and
So yeah, purify
I have
your
a
water.
theory. I have no idea if this is scientific or not, but I only give my dogs the water that we drink, and they don't have all those little fatty tumors all over them that a lot of dogs end up getting as they age, and our dogs are older. All right, tell me, if you know about the products that Johnny and I currently use. So we are in a townhouse, and the way our water is set up, the way it comes into the house, it's not in a place where we can have a whole house filter. So on our showers, we use a company called Aqua Sauna, and it's the carbon kind. You just screw up there, and they it's a great price. They ship it to you every 6 months. So you don't even have to remember it when it
Mm.
comes in the mail. You change it. In my bathtub, because I love to soak in a tub, I got just one of those. It's almost like a bowl that sits underneath the faucet. It's not very pretty, but it sits under the faucet and it runs it through carbon. And then I use these vitamin C tablets that are specifically to dechlorinate the water. And I throw those in the tub. And then we use for our drinking water a Berkey filter. Um, I have had a hard time finding any other filtration system that gets rid of fluoride and chlorine other than Berkey.
Yep. Berkey, well, I'll start with that. That has some good reviews. You're doing a lot to purify your water, and that is great. Everything that you said resonates with me. I have not heard of the vitamin C to help dechlorinate. And I'm trying to think about what kind of reaction that could happen. But obviously, you heard that from someone you trust. I don't imagine that would be harmful or challenging, but you're going to great lengths to remove chlorine, chloramine, to remove uh, fluoride, especially from water you would drink, and then all those other things. And I think you're doing a great job. I think the bare minimum someone should do if they're buying water is buy purified water or spring water, even if it's in a gallon at a time from the store. The main thing is don't drink tap water no matter what.
Yeah.
The shower is important to filter, but not nearly as important to filter the water you're eating, uh, you're drinking, and you're
Mhm.
cooking with.
Yes.
If you can't afford any of that, you can, Elizabeth, boil water
Mm.
before you drink it or use it, and the chlorine will come off of the water, or the chloramine, because it's a gas. But guess where it's going? Into your house. So I don't know that that's ideal, but water purification is underappreciated and very important,
Yeah.
especially if you're going to be in a bath. That's literally asking
Yeah.
to uh, bathe in a potential soup of toxic gases, et cetera. And I hate to scare people and be the bearer of bad news. I know a lot of health influencers right now have all these reaction videos of how bad things are, et cetera. I usually don't like to do that, but
Yeah.
this was an important one. make the small investment in
Yeah.
consuming only purified, filtered, or other types of water. You can even get a cheap filter for like 30, $40. It doesn't do nearly as much as a Berkey, but it's still something.
Okay, another, practical question. Things that we have in our daily routine that we eat or drink. What comes to mind for me is coffee. I'm not a big coffee drinker, but Johnny is. So that was one of the things that I changed a few years ago for him. I still don't know if I've made the right choice, but do you have any recommendations related to, let's say, coffee, if somebody has coffee every single day?
Um, Here's a couple of rules for coffee. First of all, I'm not a big decaf person because decaf is not how coffee was created. So if you're going to drink coffee, drink it with the caffeine or drink something else if you
Mhm,
want caffeine free. So a decaffeinating process doesn't do you any favors. And I know people like to drink it at night, et cetera, but drink something else. That's my opinion. Find an herbal infusion or something else or a coffee alternative made from chicory or mushrooms that doesn't
mhm,
have any caffeine. The fats in coffee are pretty important. So if you're going to
mm,
buy a ground coffee, store it in the freezer. If you're going to have beans, store them in the freezer, grind them yourself. But if you do ground coffee, you don't want the fats to become rancid, which makes them similar to the bad fats we talked about earlier. That's
mhm.
really important. And then, of course, what you put in it. If you use real uh, organic or healthy grass-fed cream, that's fine. Some people like coconut products. Some people like MCT oil. You can use coconut sugar. My wife doesn't even know what coffee would taste like without a collagen powder or a protein. Elizabeth, coffee is a great vehicle to put protein in because you could get 10 to 20 grams of protein just in your morning coffee. And it's funny, not a lot of people understand the metric system, and not everyone understands the US measurement system. But when it comes to coffee, eh, everything's thrown out the window. People say, I have a cup of coffee and the cup's this big, and what I'm holding is like a foot and a half. Um, a cup is 8 ounces. No
Yeah,
one I know drinks coffee in that amount. So I do think that it is important to store your beans properly, consume fully loaded coffee, probably consume less of it. And what you put in your coffee is really critical. Don't use like an oat milk creamer thinking it's good for you when it has 20 ingredients. Use real cream. Some people like to put butter in their coffee. That became very popular. Use a sweetener like honey, maple syrup, or coconut sugar. I know honey gives a different taste to coffee. Not everybody loves it. And then find a good protein powder like an organic or grass-fed whey protein or collagen to
yeah,
add to your coffee. It
and it
won't
no
change the
flavor,
taste much,
yeah.
and you're getting all that protein before you've even eaten. Because a lot of people do skip breakfast and they just have their coffee drink. So that's a good tip.
What do you think of monk fruit if somebody likes to sweeten their coffee?
I think monk fruit can be okay, but beware. Monk fruit is so potent, you would need like the tiniest dash. So
Yeah,
almost every monk fruit sweetener, Elizabeth, has something else in it.
yeah,
Now, if there's a liquid monk fruit, sometimes it has a minor ingredient that's not too bad. But if you don't use like a monk fruit erythritol
right.
or something like that, and I want to mention, I mentioned all these sweeteners. This turned into a sweeteners 101. I do not like sugar alcohols. That
Yeah,
doesn't mean no one likes them. It means I don't like them.
yeah,
Anything that is sorbitol, maltitol, xylitol, or erythritol tends to cause gut disruption in a
yeah,
lot of people. It's not innocuous. And I am not as big a fan of allulose as
mhm,
other influencers.
yeah,
Allulose does occur naturally in certain fruits, but the way allulose is processed, it's 100% synthesized in a laboratory. I'm not buying it. I don't care if it is good
yeah,
on your blood sugar or if it's safe with keto. To me, the jury's out or the jury's in. And I would much rather consume honey or maple syrup in its unprocessed form than allulose, even if allulose supposedly gives you no sugar, although it is a sugar. So either way, not a
I
huge
agree.
fan, but others really like allulose right now.
I agree, and I have found on Amazon you can buy, monk fruit extract drops. There's no other ingredient, it's just the
Wow.
plant. And there's also a monk fruit powder that it, like you said, is very potent. And on the rare occasion that I bake something, I'll use that. Johnny uses the monk fruit in his coffee, which he's come a long way from using, white sugar. So that's working for him now. And then you
And it's funny,
mentioned that.
Elizabeth, like we don't think about the derivation of these things, but monk fruit is supposed to be a sweetener that helps you lose weight, but every time you see a monk depicted, they're always overweight. Like Friar Tuck
Right.
is always a portly gentleman. But yeah, I like monk fruit to flavor protein powders and collagen
Mhm.
a little better than stevia, but I think stevia is fine.
Yeah,
People attack everything, right? But monk fruit and stevia in combination are fine. I personally like real sweeteners. I
yeah,
don't use monk fruit or stevia on a regular basis. I would prefer. I love honey, and I've always loved honey. I'll use maple occasionally and coconut sugar occasionally, but
yeah,
if you can find a pure monk fruit sweetener, people seem to like the taste. There's not really a lot to dislike about it.
yeah.
And I think that that is a good way to reduce calories and carbohydrates in your diet if you're so inclined.
And learning to cook, bake, create whatever treats you like with dates. I know you get into that in the Biblio Diet book, not excessively having too many dates, but they're very satisfying, very sweet, but they have the fiber in them and some incredible nutrients in them as well. So I've enjoyed that. I know on TikTok there's been a kind of a trend where people take a date and cut it in half and put a thick slice of organic healthy butter, and they say it's like having a candy bar,
A
and
date
one,
bomb.
yeah, one little one like satisfies you.
Elizabeth, I think I might go right downstairs and do that because I am so hungry. Dates are very cool. You know what's cool
And a little
about
salt
dates? Now, some fruits that are dried can be really sneaky sources of sugar. Like I used to like
and
dried
sulfur.
mango, dried pineapple, and raisins, right? Because you can eat so many more, and you could eat a cup of raisins probably has like 120 grams of sugar in it. But
Wow.
here's what's cool about dates. We assume that dates are a dried fruit, but if you've been to Israel or the Middle East, that's how dates grow on trees. They're a fresh dried fruit simultaneously, not like a dried apricot or where it's dehydrated, but that's how dates come. And dates are really good. Yes, they can be high in carbohydrates, but many people have found dates to not increase your blood sugar. And if you want to increase your blood sugar even less, to your point, take your
Mhm.
date half and put a little cheese or a little butter in there. The cheese is great because it's like this
Yes.
salted caramel flavor, and the
Yeah.
butter is. I mean, now I'm so hungry, Elizabeth. I might have to cut this short, but
So here's
so
a
good.
good example. I have found that with any of these fruits and nuts, they, like you said, they sneak ingredients in. In my opinion, it's worth paying extra for the organic. I know you get into organic and the importance of that in your book, um, but they'll put like sulfur and I don't know if I'm saying
Yeah,
that right.
sulfur
Sulfates.
dioxide. Yes, sulfites and sulfur dioxide is found in dried fruit that's really pretty. And like if you get a dried mango that's glowing orange or pineapple that's yellow, raisins that are golden will almost always have it. And wine, most wine has sulfites. Sulfites can be uh, can cause sensitivity in many people, and it allows you to preserve something unnaturally. So if
Yeah,
you have a dried fruit without sulfites, it might look uglier, but it's going to be much better. And you can either see sulfites, it'll say contains sulfites, or sulfur dioxide. You want to avoid that. It is a chemical that some people react to in
yeah,
extreme fashion.
yeah,
It's also a compound that is in certain medications that people will react to. Some are very sensitive to synthetic sulfur compounds.
yeah. Yes. I know you are a proponent of small amounts of nuts, specific nuts for snacking. And again, they'll sneak stuff in there. I have found that a lot of them will say that they're roasted, but they have seed oils. They
Seed oils,
roasted them in
yes,
seed
yeah.
oils. So
They're not
this is
dry roasted.
This is one of our favorite snacks. And just like you said, always read the ingredients. It should just say pistachios and sea salt,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. And you can't argue with pistachios from a biblical perspective because they were absolutely eaten in the Bible. But here's a tip with pistachios, Elizabeth: eat them with the shell on and peel them yourselves unless you have great self control. Pistachios are
True.
so yummy. They are high in sodium, but I believe a lot of people could use more sodium, which
Yeah.
is surprising to some. I think when you consume nuts, two things to understand. I think you had walnuts on your left hand. Was that
Mhm.
correct? That
Yes.
are
Walnuts.
shelled. If you buy shelled nuts, then you want to freeze them. And
Mhm.
Elizabeth, I'm sure we've all experienced this. You can open a walnut bag and it smells rancid. Walnuts contain alpha linolenic acid, which is an omega-3 that's very fragile. So
Mhm.
you want to freeze or at minimum refrigerate your shelled nuts after opening. Now, if you have nuts that have not been shelled, pistachios, they help you a little bit. They're at least partially opened. You're going to eat less shells, or excuse me, you're going to eat less pistachios because you have to do the work.
Right.
Now, if you're old school and I remember my grandmother had a walnut cracker and a pecan
Yep.
cracker,
Yep.
you will
Same here.
definitely eat less because
Yes.
if you
So
give me
much work.
some nuts and some dried fruit and some chocolate chips, again, I'm going to eat a whole bag and my gut's going to feel like I'm going to give birth to a bowling ball.
Yeah.
So that was lit on fire. So I think, again, nuts can be really good. Refrigerate or freeze nuts that have been removed from the shell, and try to eat nuts that are shelled, especially pistachios, because man, those are like potato chips in terms of craveability. And so you need to be
Yeah.
a little bit careful. If you want to weigh your food and have great discipline, you don't need to do that, but I would say most people would benefit from that.
Avocados.
An
Organic
avocado a
avocado.
day keeps the doctor away
I
much
love
more than a
them.
modern apple. Apples are great, but they're bred to be too sweet. And then if you peel the apple, it's even worse because most of the nutrients are in an apple. But if it's a non organic apple, they have these weird sprays and waxes. So
Yeah.
an avocado a day is phenomenal. There's not a person I can think of, unless you have a severe gut issue and you're on a elimination type diet,
Yeah.
that you couldn't benefit from avocado. Consume it right from the avocado itself. You can make a guacamole. You can make an avocado type pesto. And Elizabeth, this is a cool trick similar to the date with a piece of cheese or cream cheese in it. Take an avocado half, put an egg yolk in it, and bake it. It's like an eggs
Oh, yum.
Benedict, but it's the best brain boost you can have. Think about this:
Mm.
egg yolks contain vitamins and minerals. They contain a compound called choline, which is good for the brain, antioxidants. The white is good, but it's not really nutritious. So you get rid of the white, which is the opposite of what we were told in the 90s by them. And then avocados have potassium, vitamin E, magnesium,
Mm.
fiber, and monounsaturated fats. An avocado with an egg yolk in it that is baked, and don't eat the avocado skin, by the way, that is going to balance your blood sugar, boost your brain, and it's delicious. Put some good sea salt on it. Now I'm going to go downstairs and have one of
Right.
those and a half date
Well,
with something yummy inside it.
one of my favorite ways to eat this, and I think you can eat this at the beginning of a meal from what we've experienced because of the fiber in it. It and the fat, it digests very slowly. So it's kind of a nice salad if you want, or to go before your eggs in the morning or whatever. But I'll cut it up and just put a little bit of lemon juice and salt on it. And I love it just
So
like
good.
that. So it's so
And
easy.
Elizabeth, I am going to tell you what I'm eating right now, just because it's only fair. I'm not eating anything right now, but I just sent a text to what I'm going to eat while we were talking because I have very little time today. Yesterday, I didn't eat till dinner. I rarely eat breakfast. I almost always restrict my eating, but I'm going to eat a lot right now. But I want you to understand, in the Biblio Diet way of eating, you can eat delicious food and
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be expensive. In fact,
Yes.
I'm going to eat a delicious meal that checks all your boxes, Elizabeth, and it is affordable. So I'm going to have a cheeseburger. So I'm going to use grass fed beef I'm going to have A2 cheese, raw cheese that I got from Sprouts, which is a great place to shop. I'm going to have organic ketchup because I do like ketchup. I'm going to have 2 eggs from my farm that are going to be over medium. And then I'm going to have a half an avocado and a whole plantain that is super ripe. Now, that is not keto. That's not low carb. In fact, there's a lot of carbs. But
Yeah.
what am I going to eat first? I'm going to eat the burger.
Yeah.
And I'll give you some counting numbers.
Yeah.
Again, this is my first meal of the day. It'll be at 1 o'clock ish when I eat it.
Mhm.
And the burger is going to have about 40 grams of protein. I'll do 6 ounces. The cheese, 1 ounce, will have 7. So that's 47. Each egg will have 6. So if you're counting at home, that's 59 grams of protein.
Yeah.
The avocado will have a gram or 2 that I probably won't count, but it's going to have a good amount of fat. And then the plantain will have close to 40 grams of carbs because I bought a really big fat plantain. I started eating them when I went to Costa Rica and I can't stop now.
I know, right?
I fry them. I fry plantains in either butter or coconut oil.
Yep.
They are a great source of carbohydrates for the gut, and they're also easier to digest for many people than a grain or a bread or something like that. And
So
that
instead of having
size
the
portion,
bun, you're having
yes,
the
plantain on the
plantain
side,
at
yes.
the end of your
At
meal?
the end of the meal,
Yeah.
that's my dessert.
Yeah.
And I've already had 59 grams of protein plus a load of fat, and then I have the plantain, and it's just perfect. And if you're a female, that might sound like a lot of food, but it's really not. And you're going to get, for some people, like Elizabeth, like your size and my wife Nikki's size, that's half the protein you need in a
Yeah.
day in one meal, if not more. And that's half the protein you need if you're going to exercise and train
Yeah.
and look to build muscle.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited about that meal for 2 reasons. One, it's delicious, but 2, I'm truly hungry. Like, I haven't
Yeah.
eaten today.
Yeah.
And one of the benefits of time restricted eating or intermittent fasting is when you're really hungry
Yeah.
versus when is it a wrong time to eat a chip or a cracker or a cookie or a spoon of peanut butter or something like that. You never would say no to that. But if you eat real meals in
Yeah.
the order that we talked about
Yeah.
and cut out snacking, don't drink a lot of calories and restrict your eating window, I think, Elizabeth, in a year's time, you're talking 20 pounds right there if
Oh,
someone needs to lose
definitely.
weight. Not that this is a
Definitely.
weight loss program per se, but
Yeah.
it's important. And by the way, Elizabeth mentioned this earlier, the Biblio Diet, which our goal is to help you live long, master metabolism, reduce pain, fight depression, and conquer cancer with healing secrets from the Bible. It's available for pre-order,
Mhm.
and you should go to Amazon and pre-order it. If you wonder what the best types of foods are, Elizabeth and I went through this whole thing. What is this ingredient? What bar? What about avocado? What about dates? We go through every category of foods that you could possibly
Yep.
eat,
Yep.
and we rank the best
Yep.
and we rank the not as best. And you're going to probably fit somewhere in the middle or upper echelon of that. We want you to continually upgrade your diet and understand that you want to eat food that God created in a form that's healthy for the body. It's great for the whole family. The food is delicious. Trust me. This is not twigs, berries, and a few pebbles that you're going to eat. You'll love it. And we didn't cover this, Elizabeth, but one of the most powerful revelations in scripture, and I'm going to say that because I believe it, and definitely in the Biblio Diet, is God's plan for fighting cancer and disease. It's what he calls medicine or a cure. And it's found in Ezekiel 47:12 and Revelation 22:2. We call it healing leaves. And my dream is to replace tea and even coffee with this and have the world drinking something that came from the Bible. What an amazing testimony and witness that will be. We didn't get a chance to talk about it. We briefly discussed it on
Mhm.
the Elijah Streams program. But if you're interested, if you go to thebibliodiet.com,
Mhm.
that's thebibliodiet.com, we will give you a free chapter called Healing Leaves, which gives you the recipe. Now, for Johnny and Elizabeth, I hand make it and deliver it to them. We're eventually going to make it available. But for you, I'm going to give you ways to make this either from your backyard, from a local botanical garden, from a forest, or you can order some of these leaves. This is God's medicine. This, you will love this chapter. It's a great story about overcoming cancer and so much more. And if you do want to pre-order the book, you can also do it through the bibliodiet.com. You know what, Elizabeth? It's time to tell the world that God knows best about our health.
Yeah.
And we wrote the Biblio Diet to be a testament to God's plan, not man's genius. He's given us a great mind, but I don't want to celebrate a diet that's based on millions of years of human evolution and biology, which I disagree with, called the paleo diet or something like that. I want to celebrate what God created, the foods that Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Solomon, Moses, and Jesus consumed. And some of our biblical heroes like Sarah and many other women who also lived a long, long time. Sarah is the one we know her exact age, and it was
Yep.
over 120. There's a clue for that. So the Biblio Diet will teach you all that. And Elizabeth, I think the label reading, eat this, not that segment is great because
Oh, yeah.
I've done seminars for almost 30 years, and those are the highlights because people are overwhelmed. They hear so much information. They get it at their fingertips or in their
Yeah.
face constantly in their feed, so to
Yeah.
speak. And you go to a store and you're just like, there's 50,000 items in here.
Right.
God knows best. And the Biblio Diet simply illuminates God's word as it pertains to food, to faith, to fitness,
Yep.
and to healing. And I'm excited to share that. And hopefully, Elizabeth, we can engage the Restore 7 audience in the Family Mountain area
Yeah.
because there's nothing that brings families together. And there's really nothing that puts more strain on families than health. Really, if you ask somebody, what are your top 10 prayer requests? I'd be shocked if half of them or three quarters aren't prayer for healing for family
Yeah.
or for friends or loved ones. In fact, Elizabeth, mine is that way.
Yeah.
And we eat very well. We prioritize sleep. We are a family of faith, but I am praying for injuries and
Yeah.
issues. And I have five adopted children, as I mentioned or may have mentioned, and all kinds of genetics
Yeah.
coming into play. But I write my prayer requests down every day, my top three, and health and healing are a part of those almost every day. The Biblio Diet is going to give you and your family an ability to unlock your God given health potential. And I will say this, it's a plug because this
Yeah.
is worth it. Buy a book, order it for your friend. I think at Amazon you can even put their address in there.
Hmm.
This is a not so subtle hint that your friends and loved ones could afford to upgrade their diet and lifestyle. And many people who call themselves Christians and believe that Jesus is the Messiah would follow a diet that God created more than one that some really smart doctor or scientist created.
I couldn't agree more. I love the way the chapters are laid out. They're super practical. There's just enough heady teaching to like empower you to understand why you're going to make the changes that you're making, but not too much. And then every chapter ends with something with a action. Let's see, what do we call it? Take action now sections at the end of each chapter. So it kind of gives you an action point. Okay, here's what I just learned. Now, how do I implement that in a simple way this week into my lifestyle change? And I don't think anybody should, unless you're battling something that's life threatening, you don't make all these changes at once. But if you made just a few changes a week, literally by the end of a year from now, you would have a completely different lifestyle. And more importantly, your health would reflect it.
And
Um,
you would have a different body. You'd be on your way to restoring every cell in your body. The other thing I want to mention, if you are going to go to the bibliodiet.com and
yeah,
click pre-order, I saw on Amazon now they have the Biblio Diet study guide up, Elizabeth. So if
great.
somebody is already looking forward into their small group, for January, or if they want to take a handful of friends or family members or colleagues through the Biblio Diet, we have a uh, guide, a journal, and a video streaming curriculum where you can host Biblio Diet programs
Amazing.
in your home or just go through it yourself. We give some questionnaires. We help people gauge their improvement. We customize or personalize the program a little bit, but it would be an
Incredible.
awesome companion. And we envision churches and ministries going through the Biblio Diet, and imagine inviting people to your home, and each week you're going to try a new Biblio focused food. Like, hey, go
Yeah.
out and find raw dairy this week and add it to your diet. Maybe start your breakfast 1 hour later to learn about intermittent fasting. How about eating protein first in your meal? So it's going to be a really exciting, engaging community that we're putting forth. So you can find all of that on the bibliodiet.com. And of course, if you or a loved one have a health challenge, particularly cancer,
Yep.
get that free Healing Leaves chapter
Yep.
that you can see right on the bibliodiet.com. Click that link. And yeah, I appreciate, Elizabeth, having this opportunity. This is fun to, in real time, be able to, really break down some practical applications, because there
Yes.
are so many questions out there on how someone can improve their health, improve the health of their family. And having done it for 30 plus years
Yeah.
myself,
Yeah.
seeing it transform my life, and then being entrusted with 5 children who came to us with very poor physical and mental health upbringing, it's been an awesome opportunity to see these principles become a reality in,
Yeah.
in some cases, life and death situations.
Yes. I just want to quickly mention, and then we'll let you go. Some of the things you cover. You have a chapter on fats, all the myths and the truths about fats, milk, honey, meat, bread, fruit, salt, spices, essential oils, healing leaves, as you just mentioned, exercise, your mindset. And then you have at the end, you wrap it all up with the Biblio eating plan. And it's not burdensome, it's just great examples. You can either follow exactly, if you just don't know where to start, then follow exactly what you put there. You've got great recipes in there, but it's also just a good example of this is the kind of meals you could have and go from there. You get into um like you said, kind of what are the sinister six things that you should if at all possible avoid. The more all of us start mentioning these things to the restaurants we eat at, the more they're going to respond and make the changes. I've watched that happen here in Nashville with seed oils and all of that. We can actually make a difference for other people too that don't know about these things. And I know RFK Jr. is going after some of these bigger picture things. You get into um, very practical list of the kinds of preservatives that are out there that we need to avoid. And you have a list of desert island food picks. These are like the top 12 things that if these were the only foods you could eat, these would be it. And that's a great list to go through. We touched on a few of those today. And you, of course, break down the importance of eating organic. And it's so practical, and you touched on this more. So again, I want to encourage people to go back and watch the episode of Johnny Unfiltered on Elijah Streams that you guys did a week ago yesterday. And y'all really got into also the mindset and the spiritual component of all of this. And I know you well enough to know that um, the answers and the resources that you have discovered have been hand in hand with your relationship with the Lord. And you don't compartmentalize your life. I don't think any of us should. I think that our physical bodies are the temple, and you even get into that in the book. They're the temple where the Holy Spirit lives. So why wouldn't we eat to the best of our ability? And so thank you for being a pioneer in this. Thank you for learning the hard ways. And we also declare over you the this is not going to always be the way you learn.
Yes, yes,
Thank
I
you for the
received that.
hits you have taken and you've learned on the job, and you've been so faithful to, bring others along with you, and I'm excited about, being one of the groups that you take through this. We're gonna be announcing that at some point, to the Restore 7 audience, and, don't let that stop you. If you guys are needing to make a change before the new year, get the book. Definitely go ahead and get the book. Start making the changes you can. Get the study guide. If you're ready to dive that deeply into it now, do it. If you haven't, by the time we start a group, we will invite you to join us in our group, and we're going to go through and make these changes together and learn in real time with Jordan. And so, thank you very much. Give our love to Nikki. And we know y'all are a team very much in this. And she is your right hand with it all.
Well, I appreciate that, Elizabeth. Looking forward to seeing you and Johnny on Friday. I have already heard several people that are disappointed that they responded too late, but isn't that the case? A good message is when it comes to our health, when it comes to restoring the planet, people always say, when's the best time to change the way you eat? The best time was 10 years ago. Second best is today. Kind of same thing with planting a tree, right? So
So true.
definitely take action. Go ahead and go to the bibliodiet.com. Get
Yeah.
your book ordered. Don't
Yeah.
wait to change your mind. And then, Elizabeth, I'm excited as well to see the Restore 7 community, the Restore 7 family in general get healthy. I've been
Yeah.
looking forward to seeing a community of people for since I started and was called into sharing this message where there was less disease, more vibrant
Mhm.
health. Today, more fertility. I can't believe we're actually saying this, but I posted on Instagram today the infertility crisis because there truly is one. So I want to see the promises of God, which include an abundant womb, if you will, along with living a life that is exactly the length and the I would say potency that God intended, because he wants us to live long and to live well, and
Amen.
programs like this can help us do it. And I do want you to not only check out the Biblio Diet, share the message with a friend, and by the way, that free chapter can be free for you and everyone you know. So get that in people's hands.
Yeah.
I envision a time where it is definitively proven that Christians are healthier than the rest of the world.
Come
And
on.
that can happen if we follow God's plan that was given to us thousands of years ago and is now being unveiled for such a time as this.
Amen. And I think that as we make this shift, we're actually going to see more supernatural healings that we know are available through what Christ did for us. But I believe that sometimes he holds something back temporarily because he has more for us than just that. And he has supernatural healing for us, but he also has healing of the our understanding of our bodies and of the agenda that we've seen pushed through food to honestly depopulate the earth. So I think as we make this shift and we say we want it all, we want our food back, we want our water back, we want our health back, and we want to continue on in experiencing the supernatural healing power of God. We get it all. That's how our God
Yes.
is. He redeems every bit of it. So he's
Make your
redeeming
body a living
all of it.
sacrifice. That includes everything
Amen.
you eat, think, and live.
Amen. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm sure we're going to be talking with you again soon. And we will put the bibliodiet.com into the description in case somebody forgets where to go. And we will talk to you guys soon.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Appreciate it. God bless everyone.